So thank you, friends. Thanks for joining us during this pandemic period. And this is really a very difficult time the entire world is facing. Please. So this is really very difficult time we all are facing here. And during this pandemic, during this corona pandemic world over, the entire world has changed its thinking. It's not only the education sector which is being affected, it is not only the research field which is being affected. There are many sectors which are being affected. But in today's webinar, we are going to discuss, we are going to share the experience of our learned speakers from US, Dr. Kelly Milenba. She is Senior Associate Dean in Michigan State University. And we have with us Dr. Dilupa Nakandala. She is Associate Professor and Associate Dean, Postgraduate Studies from Western Sydney University, Australia. We have with us Dr. N. Kumar. He is the Vice Chancellor from Tamil Nadu Agricultural University. We have with us Dr. Anil Lai, who is Assistant Director General of ICT in Indian Council of Agricultural Research, India. And we have one more panelist from the World Bank, who is a very senior person working in World Bank and helping for one of the prestigious projects in India, which is being operated with the help of World Bank, Dr. Edward Bresnian. He is a senior agriculture economist, so he may join anytime for this.
I'm here.
Oh, you are here. So, yeah. So,
I'm here. Good morning, Rakesh.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. So you can just say hello to all. Now,
yeah, good morning, good evening, everyone.
Yes,
I was able to connect right on the time for the webinar. So good to be with you here from Washington D.C. Thanks.
So thank you, and I think it's early morning there.
Yes.
So thank you all panelists for this 1.5 hour panel discussion. So we are sure that we will be greatly benefited with the rich experience of our panelists in deciding what the Indian Council of Agricultural Research should think for use of ICT tools in the area of agriculture education. And for that, let me just give a brief introduction. That Indian Council of Agricultural Research is the nodal agency to deal with the agriculture education in India. And we have around 74 agricultural universities, which includes our 4 deemed universities. We have 3 central agricultural universities, and we have 3 universities which are traditional universities, but they have agriculture faculty with them. So in total, we have around 74 agricultural universities, and we have 0.2 million students studying in these universities. Many universities, they are located in very difficult areas, remote areas, and it's very difficult for the students who are studying there, or the students who have been sent back to their respective hometowns to get the connectivity and to get the all kind of electronic gadgets, other things. But still they are trying to connect during this difficult time. Now, Indian Council of Agricultural Research being the premier institute, being the organization which coordinates the agriculture education among all these universities. So we have issued some advisories for online classes. We have issued some advisories for alternative modes of the examination, how to take the examination, because students are not able to come to the universities and their academic session is going to close in the month of June or July. So we have to decide a lot of things. So before I invite the panelists, let me first request Dr. Anil Lai who is Assistant Director General in ICR, to just say that what is our preparedness as far as our infrastructure is concerned, as far as our facilities are concerned, for dealing with this use of ICT tools, if we are getting some suggestions today. So Dr. Anil Rai, please.
Thank you, Dr. Agrawal, and thank you all. Good morning and good evening both, because somewhere it is night and somewhere it is morning. So I'll just discuss some of the tools which we are using in the Council of Agriculture Research, and then how we are coping with education also. That also briefly, one slide I will try to describe, because I am also professor of the bioinformatics in the postgraduate school of Indian Agriculture Research Institute. So actually we have two mega facilities. One is a data center and other is a supercomputing facility, which we call it Ashoka. That is advanced supercomputing hub for omics knowledge in agriculture. And other data center from where we are hosting all our services, web services and all IT services are of the council is running from this ICR data center. And both are located in Delhi, that is Indian Agriculture Statistical Research Institute, New Delhi, which is a institute of ICR in the council. So these two facilities we are using extensively, and we are training our students also, and all students have access to these two facilities. And for the analysis, for all biological data analysis, they can access this Ashoka, and for other analysis, they can use this data center. So these are two major facilities. Apart from that, we have a very advanced phenotypic center, which is totally high-tech and climate control, where our students are being trained for the phenotyping and this phenotyping data analysis in a large scale. So it is the only system in the country where we get a lot of data, and we do a lot of metadata analysis, as well as the analysis. We train our students to go for the big data analysis using AI tools also. So these are some of the applications which we are using since long, like e-office, all office automation we have done at the headquarters, and then all over the country we have a target to do it. In view of this COVID, we have accelerated this our efforts. Then we go e-procurement online totally. Then all grievance redressal system we have again online, and then the biometrics attendance system, and there's a dashboard where which can be monitored by anyone about the key performance indicators of the council. So that we have already established. And then direct beneficiary transfer portal is also there, where the beneficiary of our research and education, especially students who get the fellowship, they get everything from this particular portal. This is also online, and Dr. Agrawal is leading this system along with the education portal. We have also an education portal. Then all capacity building program all over the country, we have a portal, capacity building portal we call it, where we organize all summer, winter schools for faculty training, as well as the training for our technical staff. So that is a national portal through which we get the application, and we communicate through this portal only. This is totally online, no paper handling is there. Then we have also put all office automation. That is, we have implemented ERP system to the all ICR institute, as Dr. Agrawal already told that. We have 113 institutes and 713 Krishi Vigyan Kendra. So we have this ERP systems which manages all kind of office automation, even including the financial management also we do. Then we have a Krishi Vigyan Kendra portal, that is a portal for agriculture extension, where all our 700 and odd the Krishi Vigyan Kendra means it is a science center. It's basically, every district of the country has minimum one science centers, but some have 2 or 3 also. So that portal we disseminate and we'll provide training to our farmers and then educate our farmers, and then we disseminate all our advisories to this portal, including agrometeorological advisories, upcoming events, upcoming training programs, and all education activities. Then we have a system for personal management system. Then foreign visit management system. Somebody wants to go to the foreign country, they have to apply through this. And then education portal, I think Dr. Agrawal can talk more about it. So all are automated. Then we have a number of universities. We have implemented the academic management system where student enrollment, all student activities, course allocation, course registration, everything is online. It's already implemented in some of the universities and 21 universities already. And then it's going, we are going to do it very soon to all agriculture universities. Then one portal, we have a Krishi portal where all our technological repository and all our data repositories are there. Then we have a national biocomputing portal where all bioinformatics and computational biology kind of analysis, student can have access. Sitting on their own desktop, they can log to the system, given they have access rights, so they have to apply, and we provide access rights. So they can do their analysis sitting anywhere in the country, provided they have a good internet connectivity. Then we have a scientific monitoring system, that is agriculture research management system. And as I told you, we are using during the COVID period, we are using a lot of this VC system. Our Honorable DG done a lot of virtual meetings and virtual educational system. And we are also implementing the learning management system on e-courses. So that is in the process that we are still, we have to do a lot of work on this area. Then this is our dashboard, where this is council dashboard, where all major activities which can be counted, I mean, which can be indicator, key performance indicator of the council, which goes to the stakeholders. So they are listed here, and anybody globally, people can see that how ICR is performing. And this kind of graphic systems are there when you open it. So you get the graph that how much seed we have produced and how much seed we have distributed, how many students are enrolled in the different universities, and something, all kinds of other information. So this is one screenshot I have shown. Now coming to the education, how we are coping with the education under this lockdown situation. Actually, Postgraduate School of Indian Agriculture Research Institute, New Delhi, is deemed to be university, where we have only postgraduate programs in around 21 disciplines. So where we provide degrees in MSc and PhD, both postgraduate and doctorate degrees to the students, and students come take admission to this school through examination system, which we conduct national level examination for admitting the student into this, and we provide fellowship to all these students. So now there we follow the trimester system. So now because of the COVID situation, some of the students are in the hostel and some of the students are gone to their respective home, because some of the hostels are being vacated because of to stop the spread of this COVID. So our students coming from all over the country, from different villages, different cities and small cities also. So, but we are trying to follow the strict deadlines and strict schedule of the trimester. Our trimester is going to end in June, and we are not deviating to this. So we have gone for the virtual classes through various platforms like MS Teams, Zoom, and Google Meet. So faculty is teaching, sitting at their home, and the students are also coming on the board. And we have also WhatsApp group we have created to deal with kind of situations, and we all class schedules are fixed and classes are going on as usual. All examinations are also going on, although we are facing little problem because some of the students who are in the remote villages and remote areas, they do not have a good internet connectivity. So we tried various mode, and now we tried that. There will be online MCQ, multiple choice questions with the 30% of weightage, and open book system for 70% of the weightage. And the questions for the open book and this MCQ, if they are able to do online, it is good. Otherwise, we are sending through mail with a limited time. They have to send the response by scanning the copies, answer books to the teacher. Seminars, all seminars, we are going online. Qualifying and other Viva examinations, all are going to online. And thesis submission also, because last date of thesis submission of the students for MSc, especially the MSc student, is in June 27th. So their guides and the students are mostly trying to work online. But if there is a problem of net connectivity, so we are going through, they are exchanging through the mail. We conducted a lot of training programs for the students, for the farmers, and for others. So all are in virtual mode we have conducted, and number of advisories have been sent. Almost daily we send advisory to millions of the farmers through our mobile app and through our portal, which is already there, and the farmers and students are registered into that portal. For education, now we, as I told, we are going to have a learning management system where online courses and certification courses, we are creating the content, and some of the contents are already created already. We are trying to modify it and then putting in this. And in all universities, their certificate, issue of certificate and verification of the certificate of the students, we are going for a DigiLocker. This is the authenticated certificate repository we are going to create for all the universities. Some of the universities already it is being done, but other universities we are going to do it very soon. So during the COVID period, we learned a lot of lessons. Now we are trying to reorganize reorganizing and strengthening all ICT activities. For that, we have created a roadmap that how we can move ahead to cope up with this kind of situation in future also. And standard data policies, data standards and policy we are trying to make, and then some projects we are going to take which is maybe directly beneficial to the farmers. And we are taking we are doing a lot of courses in modeling, AIs, machine learning, and deep learning techniques. And that we are trying to involve students also into these programs. We are also trying to create two-way communication, digital information farmers network. One slide I have for that. Then whole system we are trying to remodel with the experience which we have during this lockdown period. This is one slide for the precision agriculture, which we are trying to do. And we are going to have a big network program on this precision agriculture using all IT tools. This is the system which we are trying to do, where we are going to have a digital virtual query assistant, which is a multilingual telephonic two-way communication system, because some of the farmers, some of the students may not have the smartphones. So how to communicate with them during this situation? So this is what we have conceptualized, and we are going to build into this. And the queries, all farmer can put query on this in their own language, and similarly reply can go automatically. This whole system is automatic. So replies can go back to the respective farmer on the same mobile number from where he called. So this system we are going to put into this. Then one technology repository also we are trying to build for the students and farmer both, and which is like a YouTube kind of system repository, but it will be multilingual and multi-purpose. Then some of the things like Digital Kisan Bazaar, where farmers we are trying to attach with their local resources. Depending on their location, they can capture and take advantage of the local resources, because this kind of situation comes that the movements are restricted, and presently lot of problem face problems in selling their products, and because they do not know where to go locally because movements are quite restricted. So this is what we are trying to create for the future. So with this, I think
thank you, Dr. Anil, for setting the tone and just explaining that what is already in our repository, what is in our pocket already we have. Now, how to streamline and how to go further, that we have to see. Now, friends, we have a very prestigious project with us, and that is National Agricultural Higher Education Project, under which we have around 55 universities which have been selected based on the merit, and a lot of ICT initiatives is being considered for that. And we have done a lot of e-courses, development of e-courses. We have created more than 350 virtual classrooms. We are doing smart classrooms. We are developing the courses even for the PG programs. So all that we are doing under these wonderful activities, and we have a lot of support from the World Bank, a lot of technical support, financial support, and a lot of expertise we get from the World Bank consultants. So we are fortunate that we have with us today Dr. Edward with us, who is also the task team leader and very hard task master for driving the things. So Dr. Edward, we would like to know what are the best practices globally, because you have a long experience in dealing with many universities. So our viewers, our audience will be greatly benefited if you can just share your experiences regarding this. So over to you, Dr. Edward, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Rakesh. And good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everybody. Let me see if I can get my screen share up here. Let's see. And okay, just to confirm, are you seeing my presentation?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. Well, what I want to share with you today over the next 5-7 minutes or so, I've got some slides here that sort of discuss what we're going through right now with COVID-19, and discuss a little bit about academic continuity and how it might relate to agricultural higher education in India. Okay, what are we seeing right now? So some of these areas together apart. This seems to be what we've been living for about the last 2 months, it seems, and that's going to continue for the future. So, what's the academic environment going to look like going forward? I mean, are we seeing a one-off, or is this something that's provoking a transformation? How's in-person instruction going to be either limited or phased, and what is this going to require in terms of bridging that gap in instruction? And this is where ICT comes in. I'm going to focus a little bit today also on contingency planning. How do you maintain, the title for this workshop is, this webinar is resilience in agricultural higher education. So how do we maintain the continuity, the academic experience for students when in-person learning is either limited or not possible? Of course, there's also impacts on research and extension. That's something to think about, but that won't be a direct focus on what I'm talking about today. And going forward, when you think about a greater reliance on ICT tools, the fiscal impact, both on the positive and the negative side, is something to take a look at, both in terms of whether it's fees and tuition for students, but also a lower carbon footprint, perhaps, and a lower infrastructure bill when you move things to an online environment. Finally, also, what is this saying for the new norm around agricultural higher education? We've seen some aspects of supply disruptions. How can ICT come into the discussion of better efficiency in markets? Specifically to curricula, what does it require in terms of how we deliver and what content we provide. And so how do we retool this learning environment? So what I'm going to share with you today is a few topics around academic continuity. And what you're going to see on the left is some basic principles around the topic, in this case, as you see here, academic continuity. And what I've tried to do is pull in some experiences from as many universities as I can fit onto the screen. So on the right, you'll see the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, Cornell, Wisconsin, University of South Florida, Georgetown, University of Miami, University of Oregon, some of which are, but not all, are land-grant universities. Most of them are multidisciplinary. In fact, all of them are multidisciplinary universities. And all have dealt with, in some way or another, with academic continuity, not only in the face of COVID-19, but in the event that instruction is interrupted. For example, if we go up here and click on Cornell, they have essentially a circular, similar in vein to what was issued recently in ICAR for the universities on academic continuity. And you basically just go through a checklist of what's necessary in terms of moving through the semester, how to both conserve and update your class materials, some ideas in terms of planning. They tend to use Canvas in this case. Now, if you go back here and look at another university, for example, I think one good one was the University of South Florida. They've got an entire resource page on online courses and toolkits. And you'll see many of these universities have toolkits for faculty, toolkits for students, and basically how to orient yourself towards an online experience and the use of these tools. So, this delivering course content, how to get students to participate. The idea here is to share with you some of these experiences from universities. And what I would say is that basically you can have a virtual exposure tour and how they're addressing this. Now, what are some of the risks? I want to focus on one term that I'm using here is digital equity. There are limited access to some students. Connectivity is expanding. I just happened to see an article today on India's connectivity, and it's actually quite high. But nonetheless, in some rural areas, you're going to run into difficulty with bandwidth. So how to manage this and mitigate the inequalities in terms of digital access are always going to be a challenge when you're moving from in-person to online. Now, one of the benefits of online learning is that it's, as they say, it's asynchronous, which means students can access it as and when they choose. It can fit into their schedule. Not 100%, of course, because there'll also be times for one-to-one interchange, both with faculty and in groups. But, one of the links that I hope you can click on later on goes into just how important it is to try and approximate the live classroom environment as to the extent possible. And how you go about doing this will differ based on the tools you have at hand. But one resource that I was reading talks about human beings as being an affinity species. We seek out contact and we seek out interaction. So, we tend to talk about connectivity and interactivity, but the challenge there is how do we bridge that gap while we're still distant and not physically present? Very interesting concept that I came across was this land-grant university to the world. And Ohio State was mentioning this in their web page, where technology now affords us the opportunity to become the land-grant university of the world. So while this is a challenge right now, the sort of the crisis of COVID-19, it also opens up the possibility of how you can improve and extend your outreach, and how you can build bridges to other universities and other learning experiences for your students. Now, also, this brings up shortages and challenges around faculty's expertise and their knowledge to move into this world. This speaks to the importance of training and capacity building and gearing up. In many cases, you might find that in some cases, students, in fact, have been living with this for their entire life, so they're quite well adept at connectivity and working online. But also aligning, again, Dr. Agrawal had mentioned the National Agriculture Higher Education Project. The project development objective is relevance of education. So how do you keep education and the content relevant in terms of what students are needing, not only for their jobs and for their future employment, but also how do you package it in a way that it can be received well and online just as it would be in person. Now, again, these are a series on the right of different universities, and there's links in each of these that deal with approaches to remote learning. You know, how do you build the engagement of your students? You know, there's ways around interacting with them, whether it's through Zoom or through polls or setting up separate groups for small conversations and one-on-one interaction with students. You know, some things translate well into the classroom environment, from the classroom environment to the online, others don't. And that's where I think learning from other experiences and other universities can give you a heads up. One, as I've noted on the right over here, this one professor from USC says, I opened my classroom, open, quote unquote, a few minutes early so that I can interchange and chat with students. And so that it tries to simulate or at least provide a parallel experience to what you would normally see to the meeting and greeting that goes on in a classroom environment. And I think too often we might see these things as we see the online environment through the lens of a face-to-face experience, and they're actually two different environments. So how one operates in one, it may not be the same as how you operate in the other. And the intensity of preparing, I can say that even for this short presentation, it takes time to put together content that you hope can be useful for those who are participating. So what does this actually mean? Now, in the context of the 55 plus universities that are participating in the National Agricultural Higher Education Project, NAHEP, it seems to me that where they're not in place, creating some type of academic continuity plan can be useful. And these can be sort of adjuncts or additional activities under the grants that are already ongoing. I think this prepares universities for what probably will be future disruptions, whether it's through disease or other type of natural disaster. It's important to keep in mind that not only when you're thinking about equity across, say, scheduled tribe, scheduled classes, other differently abled students, and how they can be included and feel included in the university experience, digital equity is also important. So how do we build in access to both hardware and software, and work with students who may have some limitations on those regards? It made me think also about exposure visits. You know, right now we're basically prohibited from traveling, getting to one country to another. But even the simple act of clicking on some of these hot links can build a different type of exposure visit experience. So we may need to rethink about how we build these partnerships and how we leverage the ICT in the absence of the ability to travel and meet face-to-face. It's important to manage the expectations and to continue the training around the online environment, both for students and for faculty, so that you can exploit the medium as much as possible and sort of heighten the learning experience. And it makes me think too that you may be able to get some scale effects by greater use of ICT, not just as a backup, but as a primary tool. For some universities, their online student body is actually surpasses their physical student body. And that creates some scale effects that can be useful in education and also greater fiscal impact for the use of the public resources that are deployed for higher education. So that's just a few things to think about in terms of continuity and how you can build resilience around the disruption, particularly around the COVID-19, but also thinking about the future. Thanks, and I know this is going to be available online afterwards, so I'd encourage you to go ahead and take a look at some of these hot links that are there for each of the universities and see how others are approaching continuity and dealing with ICT and deploying it more fully under the current circumstances. Thanks a lot. Back to you, Rakesh.
Rakesh, you are still muted.
Yes. So thank you, Ed, for excellent comprehension of all the best practices, whatever you are dealing across the world, or whatever you could gather the information from across the world. And we know your contribution is immense in India. Whenever you come with a bundle of ideas, which we try to implement. So we will definitely see for this digital equity plan, which you are just suggesting. We'll also see the other options which you are planning to give to us. Now,
Thanks, Rakesh.
friends and my dear viewers, we have another panelist from Australia, Dr. Dilupa Nakandala. She is having a background in electrical and electronic engineering and held multiple roles in multinational companies for over 8 years prior to this present job. And she is also a very good innovator and expert in technology transfer and supply chain management. And she has contributed a lot for teaching and use of ICT tools. So, Dilupa, in India, we have, as Dr. Anil has told, a lot of repositories, a lot of things. But the biggest challenge which I find in agriculture is that most of the cases, I can say almost more than 90% of the programs, they have somewhere some kind of practicals required, the field exposure, the exposure to the different plants, the trees. Without that, you cannot do. And we cannot take care of all these things through the online mode. That's really the limitation. Only we can have some very general kind of courses like intellectual property rights, agribusiness management, or some kind of other courses. And that's the difficulty presently also we are facing. When we have issued the advisories, we are receiving a lot of questions that how to complete the rural exposure program, how to, for which we give some marks or some they are graded, how to complete their other practical programs in the laboratories. So, Dr. Dilupa, can you just share the experience of Western Sydney University and your personal experience, that how to deal with such kind of things, and what is your experience in dealing in this pandemic situation? So over to you, Dr. Dilupa, please.
Thank you, Dr. Agrawal. Let me share my screen quickly. Yep. Thank you, Dr. Agrawal, for the introduction, and good morning, good evening to everyone. So I'll try to share some insights into how Western Sydney University has been responding to the disruptions to the academic environment caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. But I should declare initially that my observations are not really confined to agricultural faculties as such, but more towards how the university overall responded or turned to be an early responder to the disruptions to minimize effects on student learning. So I will try to capture some of the aspects of the question asked by Dr. Agrawal in my discussion. However, looking back, I'm thinking actually during this time of disruption, as in any other university, Western Sydney University also has been focusing on academic continuity, as Edward correctly said. And research continuity has been taking a backseat, and academic continuity has been focused mainly across the university. And thinking about Australian universities, most of them have got certain levels of accumulated knowledge and skill sets in digital technologies that have been really useful in responding quickly to the disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm actually thinking it's quite amazing how quickly those conversions were done and how agile was, most of the universities were as institutions in adopting new technologies. In my experience, looking back, usually a TNL project or teaching and learning project can easily take a year to implement. But in the COVID-19 situation, the conversion of all courses in the university to online delivery only took a few weeks. I think in a way it was because of the compulsory and immediate requirement for practical reasons that caused this type of immediate response and institutional wide changes happening. So I think I'm going to touch some of the important points that Edward mentioned in his presentation. At Western Sydney University, we have been having lots of discussions about keeping pedagogical requirements the same irrespective of the mode of delivery we use. So for example, we need to make sure that intellectual engagement with learning materials happen, even though the environment is currently virtual. So for example, we had so many discussions, very quick discussions to share our knowledge on how to maintain students' excitement to learn, engage, and also seek knowledge. Academics like ourselves have been very cognizant about the challenges of isolation and motivation and sense of exclusion that can become very problematic for students when they work in virtual learning environments. So we have been consciously attempting to incorporate mechanisms to minimize these difficulties. For example, we tried very hard to replace face-to-face lectures with online live lectures. Instead of passive mode of teaching and learning, we have been trying to connect with the students real time. So we had so many synchronous lectures happening using digital platforms. And also, in order to make sure that proper intellectual engagement happens in online deliveries, we have been using problem-solving approaches, simulations, bringing in external speakers to online lectures. There have been, several very common, they're not as, very novel or innovative, but they are kind of new things that we have been integrating to our deliveries in order to make sure that we have very strong engagement with the students. And the another thing is that what we were very careful about is to make sure that no one feels isolated when they work from home. Especially, we try to facilitate the sense of student community and to reduce the social distance, if we use the terminology that we hear all the time these days, to reduce the social distance and emotionally connect with the students. In virtual environments, it's difficult, but we made extra effort to do that. The other thing is that the importance of teaching presence in the virtual environment, even though that we all had kind of like expanded or extended workloads in working in a virtual environment, we were very careful to make sure that there is a strong teaching presence in order to make sure that students are motivated and engaged. However, I would say that the main challenge in meeting these objectives in a virtual learning environment is the requirement for increased availability of academics and the pressure on academics for their time. So many academics have been using these ICT tools to help them reduce that pressure on their academic time. So at Western, I'm going to touch some simple things that we have been doing and kind of like commonly adopted by many academics across the university. So all face-to-face classes, as I said, were replaced with online classes. And recorded lecture pods in the form of mini lectures were used by us, and they were available on the digital learning platform. There are so many different digital learning platforms used by different universities. And interestingly, what we found was that the digital learning platform that we have been using had so many functions that we rarely used, and we started using them in order to make sure that the online delivery is effective. And we used digital platforms with live video communication, like like what we do here. We use Zoom because that all academics are quite familiar with this communication tool. And there are different functions like breakout rooms that allows us to manage large groups of students and make sure that interactions happen among students as well as between the lecturer and students. So all these functions were kind of like utilized to the maximum, is being utilized to the maximum in order to make sure that these interactions happen in an effective way. And also, I should say that it is difficult, as Dr. Agrawal indicated, it's difficult to teach complex topics, not only the practical part of it, but also teaching complex topics is quite challenging in a virtual environment. One reason is that we don't get the opportunity to gauge student reactions like in a face-to-face environment. So we can't guide them in real time. So many academics have been consciously working together to use scaffolding techniques to maintain this two-way relationship between the lecturer and students. And also encourage them to get into peer learning through simple tools like wikis, discussion forums, synchronous and asynchronous. And these have been effective, and we can see increased participation of students in the virtual environment. It can be different in different countries, but here the observation is that students are participating more and more in the virtual learning environment when we introduce these tools. So the other thing is that I think it goes towards what Dr. Agrawal indicated. When we try to teach mathematics and or maybe formulas, it's not easy to do in online lectures. So we have been using digital whiteboards and whiteboard animation software very effectively to kind of simulate what we do in a face-to-face environment. And when it comes to laboratory works, it becomes harder. Video demonstrations have been used. That's what have been used kind of like very frequently. But I know that some academics are using 3D modeling. It's kind of like simulating the face-to-face environment. They have found that 3D modeling tools as useful. But what I know is that since we are in the recovery phase, students who have to do laboratory work, they are the first ones that will be prioritized to return to campus, because it's very difficult or it's very challenging to give that hands-on experience that is required in student learning in a virtual environment. But there are tools that have been used by academics in order to minimize the negative effects in such requirements. So I want to say that depending on the discipline or depending on the learning activities required in different disciplines, challenges are different and the tools are different as well. Then another aspect of virtual environments is how to do or how to conduct examinations in a virtual environment. That we heard how that MCQs and paper-based exams are going to be mailed to students who do not have access to IT infrastructure in India. But here we have been using a mixed approach. Digital connectivity is not a major issue here, but mostly students have challenges in having an environment which is conducive for them to study at home for some students. But when it comes to online examinations, we have been using different proctoring technologies. For example, for very critical units, let's say, sophisticated proctoring technology where students have watched in real time by a trained invigilator for the duration of the exam. We are using such solutions. And also some others have selected to utilize proctoring technology with artificial intelligence, where the monitoring of the exam integrity will be done, using machines. But most of us who are happy to go for open book exams, we are using time limited assessments available through the digital learning platforms. So there are different options that we can use, but all these options come at different costs. So what the university has been doing is to assess the requirements of the discipline, or accreditation requirements, let's say, or the requirements of specific units in order to consider what methodology or what approach should be used in online exams. So if I go, beyond the tools or adoption of ICT tools, and see whether what actually influenced this kind of quick turnaround to adopt new technologies and to move online quite quickly, I think there were so many institutional factors that affected its implementation. So in my view, we had lots of shared knowledge, and also we had accumulated knowledge on digital technologies and skill sets because of the project that we did before to go for blended learning or flipped delivery model some years ago. So we had that already accumulated knowledge in the university, but beyond that, I would say that it is the behavior of academics mostly, because they understood the reason for doing that, and they had shared responsibility across the university. And there was so much autonomy with academics to try out new things. Like in any other university, we also had centrally shared resources, toolkits that will inform what to do by academics. But it's still, academics were given freedom to try out new things. And it's kind of like a very innovative, very entrepreneurial kind of culture that was created during this time of change. And many have been sharing their knowledge or skills, what worked, what did not work. These things happened real time, very quickly, mostly through informal mechanisms. And interdisciplinary collaborations enabled sharing knowledge, because the previous projects were only for different schools, only a few schools, but the knowledge, accumulated knowledge, or the knowledge that has been built through introducing these changes was shared very collegially across the university. And I think the other one is that digital upskilling of academics, and I say just-in-time training that has been happening since the disruption started. It's very interesting to see how quickly academics acquired new skills, or new skills in digital skills actually, and tried to include or integrate those technologies into their unit designs and deliveries. Quite innovative and entrepreneurial in my view. And as the digital divide or digital equity, it's also important to consider. Here we, in the university, we provided laptops on loan to students, and dongles, and we kept some study spaces open for students to come and study if their home environments are not very conducive for concentrating on studies. So that was another aspect that the university had very university was quite concerned about, and especially financial and mental health well-being. So it was an all-inclusive kind of a response that was seen in Western's approach to minimize the disruption to student learning and academic continuity. So in my view, we are now in the recovery phase and are planning to return to campus. So moving forward, there are new approaches or technologies that will sustain, will stick with us and inform the way that teaching and learning is done in future. So that's what I can share about Western's experience in how we responded to this disruption to academic environment in the university. That ends my presentation, Dr. Agrawal.
Thank you,
Happy to
thank
answer.
you, thank you, Dr. Dilupa, for sharing your experience, sharing the experience of Western Sydney University. So very good points you have suggested. But can I just ask you, can you just throw more light? What is this breakout rooms?
Breakout rooms are functions available in digital learning platforms where you have when you have a large cohort of students, then we can divide, or we can put them into different rooms, like different classrooms in in the physical environment. We can have breakout rooms in a virtual environment, and the facilitator can go into these rooms and talk to these students and move from one room to another. So it's kind of like all students will get the chance to interact with the facilitator. So we can
Okay,
we can enable group interactions
thank you.
and support facilitator instructions as
Thank
well.
you. So thank you very much, Dr. Telupa. And today only I had a talk with the Ministry of Human Resource Development in India, that there is a platform, very big platform for hosting all the MOOC courses, massive online open courses. So we also want to collaborate with them, but the only thing is they deal only with the traditional universities. So they don't have any course of the agriculture universities. And they were very happy when I just talked to them. They are saying that yes, we can collaborate. So now we will just move to that platform also, so that those courses which do not require any practical kind of things, we can have and give some credit benefit to the students. So moving further, I will request the another panelist, Dr. N. Kumar, our Honorable Vice Chancellor from Tamil Nadu Agricultural University, to share what kind of measures they have taken, because as I could gather the information, Dr. Kumar has made a lot of contribution in the way of having a lot of ICT initiatives, online examinations, online classes. I can share with my viewers that most of the universities have taken care of online classes through various platforms, through various facilities available with them. And they have also moved into the direction of taking exams for this. But I thought to call one vice chancellor. We will have some other discussions like this with other vice chancellors, where we can share their experiences. So Dr. Kumar, can I just ask you what kind of measures you have taken during this period for the benefit of the students, and how the students are satisfied with your initiatives, and how the faculty is feeling about all the initiatives which the university has taken during this pandemic period, so that there is no loss to any student during this current academic year or current semester. So over to you, Dr. Kumar. Dr. Kumar.
Okay. Yes. So, good evening to Dr. Agarwal, DDG Horticulture, DDG Education from ICR, New Delhi, and Dr. Anil Roy, ADG ICR. And good morning to Dr. Edward. We met at Delhi, and Dr. Diluba from Australia, Dr. Kelly. So, I was hearing your experiences. And as far as Tamil Nadu Agriculture University is concerned, I'm very thankful to ICR to have selected TNAU in the panel to share our experience. I will briefly give a small introduction about our university. This is one of the oldest university, and we are about nearly 115 years old as a college. And as a university, next year we are going to celebrate our golden jubilee year. I have a lot of plan, but this COVID pandemic has put me down my accelerator. But anyhow, I feel it will be solved. And we are having nearly 10 undergraduate degree program, what we call at BSc level, technology program, science program, and spread over in 14 different colleges. So as far as the undergraduate program is concerned, we have nearly 4,000 students, including the private and affiliated colleges to TNAU. And at the postgraduate level, we have 33 different MSc agriculture program. We call MSc agriculture or horticulture, whatever it may be. And PhD, we have 27. Totally, the PhD students are about 450. And the fortunate thing of our universities, we have got a strong research background with the research stations support. 39 research stations are functioning under our university. There are certain research stations exclusively devoted for each crop, namely Rice Research Institute, Cotton Research Institute, like Maize Research Institute. Likewise, specialized research stations are also with us. And also we have 14 KVKs, as pointed out by Dr. Anil Roy. It is a farm science center across our state. And the moment our government declared lockdown for the students, that is on 17th March, we had to necessarily obey the order and send all our students back to their home. But unfortunately, the students who have come from very faraway places and the international students, they were safely accommodated in our international hostel. About 21 students are staying right now under our campus. And I must thank at this time the technical staff, our supporting staff, as well as farm laborers. Even though our government declared lockdown from 24th, nearly 1/3 of the people who are staying in Coimbatore, that the main campus, and also in all the other campuses, minimum 33% of the staff have come on their own to maintain the ongoing experimental crops, our animal husbandry, dairy unit, and all those things. So I must definitely acknowledge, though the government said you need not come, full salary will be given, but even then, our staffs are so enthusiastic to protect the properties of the university. So they came on voluntarily. And only from this Monday onwards, our state government has insisted 100% attendance for the assistant professor and above, that is technical staff. And all the rest of the staff, it is varying from 33% to 50% because of the variation in the intensity of our COVID-19. Our state has divided area into red area, orange, and green like this. Coimbatore has now come into green area. So here, the moment we got the order for lockdown and other things, our professors and our directors discussed with me. They informed me, sir, there is a possibility of taking up digital classes, online classes to the students, because keeping the students idle in the home, that too our government very emphatically told not to come out. At the same time, you have to maintain social distancing even in the house also. So during that situation, So our professors discussed, we can start initiating the classes through the digital mode. So first on April 6th, we had some initiative trial and other thing. From 8th onwards, April 8th onwards, all our PG programs, we started giving just like the regular program of classes, the conducting of the PG program. So our professors and others, some who are available in the campuses or in the
Dr. Kumar, can I just interrupt
Yeah.
because we have paucity of time?
Yeah.
Can you just tell us the infrastructure, the kind of tools you are using for ICT for this? Because we have time up to 6:30
yeah.
only.
Yeah.
We have another panelist.
Yes,
So,
yes, yes.
so that our viewers are benefited by
Yes, yes,
that
yes.
also. So a lot of initiatives we have taken, but
Okay.
ICT initiatives, what are those
Sir,
tools?
actually,
which
we have all our infrastructure facilities for ICT are provided by ICR, thanks to ICR, and also our support of our state government. Also, we have got all other thing. Here, we have used the Microsoft Team platform for the digital classes, and the feedback from the students is that it is not like the regular classes as they experience in the regular classes, but this is the opinion of 30 to 35% of the students. But another issue also we have got, it is many students who are in the remote area, they did not get proper connectivity, particularly with that smartphone, other things. So that problem we have got. The students, what we did is, we are not conducted classes, but online we are given the materials, lecture materials, course materials, and the PowerPoint sharing, other things, just to keep them engaged. Then another thing is, during this April and May month, we conducted through webinar using this Microsoft Team a series of 8 lectures. That was well received by all our scientists. Every time, not less than 300, 400 attendees were, participants were there, and we have sourced international scientists, our scientists from ICRISAR, and where even from US, other things. So we utilize this time to have webinar on recent topics. So far we have conducted during this time 8 series of it. Another important thing is, normally in the month of April, May, we used to conduct what is known as crop scientist review meeting. That is the 1 year what we have done will be typically reviewed by inviting students, inviting our research scientists to the main campus like this. This time, everything we did through online. Even today, we had millets and forage crop online crop scientist meeting. Likewise, another 8 days, I am occupied in the morning hours conducting series of meeting through the online mode. And we will be taking it to the next phase, namely identification of our technologies and varieties for the betterment of the farmers in that.
Dr. What kind of measure you are taking to conduct the online exams?
Sir, online examination right now, the normal modes we are using to the digital mode, digital pad, iPad, digital pad we are using, but for the PG and other exam, we are not decided anything, because the students felt that without practical, that course is incomplete. That is a problem.
Okay. So we are looking for, in fact, the proctor-based exam. Now we have, as it was told by Dilupa from Australia, and we are also talking for this proctor-based, where the camera is AI-based. It takes care of what kind of movements are there of the student and other things.
And doctor,
So,
another thing is, for the PhD students, that defense examination, we conducted first time in online. So far we have conducted 4 PhD students online mode, and they are very happy because the student is sitting somewhere, the examiner is sitting somewhere, and our university people are sitting in the Coimbatore. We are able to conduct 4 online PhD examination. So by which their degree program will be declared at the earliest.
Thank you, Dr. Saab, very much. So, friends, we have just listened that what kind of situation our Indian universities are facing from one of our Vice Chancellor, what kind of measures with the available facilities, available resources we are taking. So we will just again come to the panelists based on the questions which we will receive from the viewers. Now, I just move on to Kelly. Kelly also has a very long experience in Michigan State University, and she has done fairly well in this ICT initiatives as the Associate Dean in the university. But before the Kelly takes up the floor, let me also just tell that we have, as Dr. Anila has told, we also have one Krishi portal where we are having the knowledge repository of our resources. We have the capacity building programs. All things we have already digitized. Whatever training programs have been conducted, we have put it on the portal and informed the students that they can download during this difficult period. We have the design resources where all kind of statistical tools, you can know about any kind of technique, you can do practical, you can download the lot of research data is available. We have a lot of other resources in the way, like I think it is 0.15 million thesis of PhD and PG programs. They are all digitized and available online for the students' benefit. So all those resources are extensively being used during this pandemic. So Kelly, I would like to know what is the different kind of mechanisms, different kind of measures taken by your university, Michigan State University, one of the prestigious university and one of the most renowned university in the field of agriculture. So over to you, Dr. Kelly, please.
Thank you so much. And I promise that I will keep things short. I really would like to thank all of the previous speakers because you hit on a lot of things that Michigan State University is also working through and actually using. So lots of similarities, and makes me feel really bonded and connected to everybody, realizing that we're all in this together. And really learning from one another. I'm going to just do a real quick overview just to give the viewers a quick sense of where Michigan State University is located. We are actually in the state of Michigan and South Central Michigan. We have about 50,000 students total on our campus, 5,700 faculty and academic staff. So those are the people who are delivering our content, and about 7,300 support staff that are affiliated with the university. Michigan State University itself, when we first started undergoing things with regard to the coronavirus outbreak, the first identified case occurred on March 10th. The governor of the state of Michigan then declared an emergency order on the same day, and then we went into what they called a stay home, stay safe executive order until May 28th. At the time, the May 10th date was actually just a couple of days after all of our students returned from spring break back to the main campus. We are currently in a 6-step plan for reopening the state of Michigan, and we're at step 4. And at any point, if we backpedal, that means we actually move back in a particular step. Michigan State University on March 10th, as soon as the governor's order was invoked, it was a Wednesday, I believe, we went to remote course delivery. That happened overnight. And I am highlighting the word remote on purpose because it is different than what we are considering online. Remote for us was, how do we quickly turn our materials into a space that would allow for our students to access the information in a remote way to protect their health and safety first and foremost. our #1 top priority has been the health and safety of our community. So many of our faculty very quickly switched to things like, how do we use Zoom? How do we use Teams? And how do we simply deliver things through videotaped exercises, that type of thing? That resulted in a lot of different policies that we actually had to change because this happened right in the middle of our semester. We just ended our semester a couple of weeks ago. And so we even changed our grading policy for spring semester and spring semester only for our students. What we said about this summer, though, was that entering into our summer, that our courses would go fully online. And I'm differentiating again online from remote, because online essentially was, how do we ensure that we are meeting top quality learning outcomes, learning objectives to ensure a high quality learning space for our students. This fall, and I'll talk a little bit more about this fall in just a little bit, but it will likely be some combination of online, hybrid, and in-person. And Dr. DeLupa highlighted that as a part of her information as well. So what were some important strategies for quick mobilization for us? We needed to ensure that we had seamless communication and file sharing. And so Microsoft Teams, and Dr. Kumar, I think you had mentioned this as well, Teams has been a lifesaver for Michigan State University. We had a lot of people who were not necessarily bought into Teams, but they quickly came to embrace Teams. And Zoom as well. And Dr. DeLupa, you had talked about the breakout rooms. Those were immensely important for us as we were able to deliver on class or course content for our students and allow essentially for some of those changeovers. We also had to be very flexible in terms of our hardware and specialized software. So the university very quickly made computers available to students wherever they might have been if they didn't have access to it. The university has a requirement that all students must have a computer before they can come to the university. Our bigger challenge was actually getting students hooked up to the internet, especially those students who lived in rural spaces. So the university very quickly worked with some of the cellular companies to ensure that students had access to cellular services so that they at a minimum could connect into some of those online spaces. We also had amazing technical support from our IT folks. Would it not have been for the people who were running fast and hard and working many, many hours to support everyone, I do not think we could have made the switch over as quickly as we did. And then essentially what we did is there was a common sentiment among all of us, which was that all systems had to be firing for the benefit of the student learner. So our #1 top priority, and I think Dr. DeLupa and others mentioned this, was we have set certain things aside around research and extension and around outreach. And our top priority had to be around the academic space and ensuring that our students were the first and primary beneficiary in everything that we were doing. We had to then teach our faculty new tools. MSU has not embraced online strategies. So we very quickly, through our teaching hub, put together what they called soiree, which are 20-hour online synchronous training for our faculty, and very specifically targeted those faculty that would develop courses for this summer. MSU had to quickly pivot to be able to deliver an enormous number of summer courses that we had not historically delivered before. What they also then delivered was they delivered Aspire, and we also have this available for folks as well. And this is 20 hours of asynchronous training for our faculty. And this was essentially to target our faculty to bring them up to speed in their development skills around courses that they would likely need to deliver for the fall. I'm actually in the middle of taking the Aspire training myself right now so that I can make sure that I stay in touch with our faculty as we move forward. Again, though, what I should say in both of these cases, this was done because there was immense collaboration across the university as a whole. We had people from multiple different colleges working together, all pulling in the same direction, and that allowed us to be able to do this very rapidly. Some tricks of the trade, and Dr. DeLupa and Ed and others have already talked about this. I feel like I'm a bit of a salesperson for Microsoft Teams and for Office 365, but it has been incredibly helpful so MS Sway, that's Microsoft Sway, is one place where our faculty have really started to learn some different ways in which they can combine text and media and present information differently. There's Msu Flipgrid, which is a part of the Office 365 platform as well, that allows for free discussion, allowing people to be able to see and hear from every student in the class. And it also fosters that really important piece of connecting with those students in a learning space. And I won't talk about all of the other ones, and I'm happy to share the slides that I have here, but these are some of the very popular ones that our faculty have been embracing and been using as a part of pushing to an online or even a hybrid delivery. Well, what about research and extension? I'm just going to hit both of these very, very briefly. Our research, interestingly, the fieldwork component of what we have done has actually remained relatively unchanged. Most of what we've been able to do has been allowed to move forward. However, we have had to work through certain approvals. The governor's stay-at-home order exempted agriculture and natural resources. Those were necessary research spaces. We are slowly beginning to reopen the labs on campus, but again, the governor made this a priority space for university research to continue. And extension essentially has used a lot of the same technologies as teaching to very quickly pivot their information into an online space and to try to support the local communities as much as possible. I do want to hit on a couple of challenges, and then I will wrap things up very quickly, is that, and Dr. DeLupa highlighted this, and I think Ed did as well, is the lack of IT infrastructure in our rural communities. The university received several millions of dollars from the federal government that we were able to deliver to our students to allow them to be able to be supported in some of these infrastructure needs. We did not meet all of the needs of our students, unfortunately. Not everybody had the hardware and software, and so we had to deploy as much as we could, as quickly as we could. And quite honestly, some people just don't like technology and they are not comfortable with it. A lot of our students talked about the fact that they did not pay for an online education. They are paying for a face-to-face education, and why should they bother? So we've actually had a fair number of students talk about taking a gap year. We're trying to encourage them strongly not to do this, and that's the student melt piece of it that I mentioned here, is how do we keep our students engaged? How do we not lose them? And part of our motivation for pulling courses in the summer into an online space was to try to encourage students to continue to stay connected to the university so that when fall semester comes along, we have not lost them and that they will return to the institution. There have been a lot of financial challenges that have been faced by our students: lost wages, lost internships, lost education abroad opportunities, and other things. And that's led to a significant amount of mental and physical health issues for everyone. As a result, we pushed a lot of online services for mental health available to our students. They can call in to our counseling center and get the support that they need through online interactions with mental health care providers and other folks. Unfortunately, the university is projecting about a $300 million US dollar deficit for fiscal year 2021. That will change the way that we do business. And while this is an incredibly serious experience that all of us are going through, I am using a bit of a tagline of, well, let's not waste a good crisis. These are great times for us to really rethink the way in which we do business, how we need to support our students, faculty, and staff. And I noticed in the chat box, somebody asked if online technology might be a new way of moving. And I suspect it will become much more a part of how we function as an institution. And then I'll just end here. There's a link that I've got that the university, since Ed highlighted a bunch of other institutions, I wanted to make sure MSU got called out in all of our online resources as well. But we've got a whole variety of different resources that are available for folks, whether you're working at campus teaching, if you're a student doing research, or if you just want to hear from some of our higher up administrators. Those are the Spartan Fireside Chats. What matters most? Excellent leadership, strong communication across all levels of the organization, everybody pulling together in the same direction. So we very quickly put up websites to make things much more available for folks. And as I mentioned for the fall, we will likely be moving forward in a mixed model way of delivery. Just like I think Dr. DeLupa talked about, is that we will prioritize those things that require in person to come back to campus first and push as much else into that online space first using a variety of technologies. So with that, I will end my presentation. I know we're getting short on time, but hopefully that gives folks a little bit of what we're doing here at MSU. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kelly, for sharing your rich experiences, sharing the experience of the MSU and dealing with the academic programs, how to cope up so that the students are not at any loss for the academic program. So I think the suggestions given by you regarding this mixed model, I think they are really appreciable. We should also think for mixed model. And it's a great concern which we have just showed, that it's going to be a great deficit of $350 million US. I think that is the case for almost all the universities. In India also, there is a rising demand from the students that there should not be any fee charge for the next year because their parents are not having business and other kind of things. But at the same time, I feel like we are going to save money on the other expenditures. If we are going for the online, there is very less travel going to be happen. And other kind of expenditure we used to do in the physical meetings, like having the arrangements for the auditorium, for the seminar hall, for all kind of things. So that all now we have to have a different kind of thinking. So there are a lot more points to discuss, but before that, there are few questions which you can see on your screen. So the first question, because a lot of persons have some same name. So there is one question related to this bioinformatics. Dr. Anilai, can you take up this question and just respond? Dr. Anilai? The question is from Chandrasekhar Mukhopadhyay.
So, yes, basically for any online teaching, the question is that how a student can learn bioinformatics when he does not have a PC or a desktop or iPad. So that's very genuine, because you should have some device to interact. Even if you have a smartphone, then also you can learn bioinformatics. Not only bioinformatics, that is for the question is same for any other discipline, because for online studies, you need to have some digital device through which you can interact and you can learn the bioinformatics, of course, it's the same case. So I think that you need to have it. It's not that if you don't have, then there is a problem. Any other question?
Thank you, Dr. Anil. Now, Dr. Kelly, there is another question for you. And the question is, you can read that the digital learning is said to be the new normal. Is it for short term or to be the future? How this will be for experiential learning or work experience?
Yeah, so I envision, and I'm speculating, but just given all of the things that we've seen, that digital learning will be much more a part of the way in which we need to function and exist. I think that one of the things that's really important is that rather than seeing these as challenges, we need to see these as opportunities. What are the opportunities that we can gain by embracing more of the digital technologies? I think about look at who we're talking to today and all the different people that are represented here across the globe. These are phenomenal opportunities for us to collaborate across boundaries and across borders in a much more meaningful and hopefully purposeful way. And like I indicated earlier, I think let's not waste a good crisis. This gives us a phenomenal opportunity to really build those collaborative opportunities and to allow our students to really gain the benefit of being able to talk with global citizens and learn from each other in much more meaningful and purposeful ways. I'm not sure if I completely answered that question. I know I went off on a little bit of my own direction, but happy to answer anything else on that.
Thank you, Kelly.
Can I add to what Dr. Kelly said?
Yeah, please.
Basically, as she already said, that there's a lot of opportunities and some limitations also. Basically, now what I think is we should go for a cloud teaching. Even students are in the campus, so teachers can teach from their own room, and students can have the classes. We do not need to have a physical class actually, and for that we need to have some facilities, of course, like one desktop-based board, whiteboard on their desktop, like I'm writing from the pen. So students can, as if I'm writing on the board. So there will be board on the display, and we can, one faculty can take class almost in all universities. If you schedule the class and lectures in bioinformatics, suppose we have a shortage of faculties, different universities.
Yeah.
Even our faculty can teach in all universities. So
thank you, Dr. Anil. Now, Edward, can you respond to this very interesting question that how cultural learning among students will be addressed in the present situation of learning system being encouraged?
Well, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, in a way, we're sort of modeling that right here. I mean, you've got Sydney connected, you've got East Lansing, Michigan, Washington, D.C., and many parts of India, and we're bridging several gaps just in the course of these 2 hours. But for students, I think we've faced issues of inclusion already just in the physical presence and physically present in-person universities. And for example, just as an example, under NAHEP, we have an equity action plan that tries and strives to promote inclusion for those who have traditionally or historically been excluded in some way or another. So when you move from the physical to the virtual, you do run the risk of access, physical access, and we've talked about access to bandwidth, toggles, the hardware, et cetera. That can now be a further constraint to those who've already been constrained in the past. Now, the only way to address it is to have a plan to mitigate it. So I think by promoting access to, in some cases, grants that permit access to the hardware, ensuring some of the other panelists, Kelly and others have mentioned these chat rooms and the breakout sessions. I think if you can divide and sort of come up with smaller group discussions, it'll also encourage students to participate more effectively online, and the way you structure those could also be a way of promoting inclusion and diversity. So that's just a couple answers, but I think we have to recognize the problem and then develop a plan to solve it or at least to mitigate it. That's what I would say. Thanks.
Thank you, Ed.
Rakesh, could I also just add on?
Yes, please.
I think there's some, and I want to address a couple of questions that I think are in the chat space as well. And absolutely agree with Ed as much as we can to develop some of these plans. However, noting in the chat, there's a lot of students who are still struggling to gain access to the internet or to quality internet. So those infrastructure issues are hands down, they are real. They are not allowing for equity access to information. And so that is where I think these plans that Ed has talked about are so important, but also making sure people are aware of the real challenges that are being faced by our students so that we can do the best we can to continue to support them even when they don't have those types of access points. There was another comment in the chat too about supporting the mental health for students, and how do you handle that when we are all dispersed around. I can only speak to what MSU is doing because I think it's very different likely in many different places. But what was very important for us, and we had actually done this even prior to the outbreak, we had actually worked with a company that allowed us to provide online mental health support for all of our students. And students are able to essentially call into it and even speak to someone in their native language, because we recognize sometimes just speaking with someone in their native language allows them to be able to communicate more easily, more holistically. But the individuals then that we work with understand the MSU system and could help the students then navigate the resources and the supports that were available here on campus. And again, then we've actually pushed our counseling and psychiatric services unit into an online space. And so students can call in for those online appointments as needed. Thank you, Dr. Rakesh, for letting me jump in there.
Thank you, Kelly. Now, Dilupa, you are, can you just answer this question? This is the question from one of our Assistant Director General who deals with the quality in Indian Council of Agricultural Research, Dr. Venkat, about the plans or strategies for the students' placements, as it is going to take more time than expected for this everything being locked down. So can you just share your ideas how these students can be placed who are completing their studies now? So over to you, Dilupa.
Thank you, Dr. Agrawal. I think that's another contentious matter when it comes to student placements or internships. And what we have been doing here is to make sure that we keep our contacts with industry. And when there are situations where students can work off campus or off sites, and we have been giving those opportunities. And there have been situations where these internships are kind of like directly embedded as part of the course, where students had to do them in time in order to complete the course. And in such situations, we have been kind of like personally following our networks and giving opportunities for students. And even like everyone else, all companies are working offline, kind of online, and even though they are not in their offices, and there have been opportunities for our students to get the experiences by working from home, and that has been facilitated.
Thank you. Dr. N. Kumar, can you just share your ideas? Some question is there that how to take care of this student ready program, which is the rural entrepreneurship program of ICR. So because of this lockdown, we have issued some advisory, but still how you are taking care of such kind of programs?
No, actually, right now the students are in their home, respective home. We are thinking of condensing the program because to keep pace with the academic calendar, if you delay, we already lost two months. So this internship program, the students, this Rawe program, everything is we have to compress, and as a special case, we have to permit them to complete it. Otherwise, it will get prolonged.
Yeah. And one very interesting suggestion has been given. That is that the students need some kind of counseling or motivational sessions during this lockdown. So can you just say that really we need to arrange some lectures to motivate these students or to counsel these students, to provide the counseling for these students during this really very serious situation? Yeah.
That is why during this period, whether they are undergraduate or postgraduate students, we keep them engaged through the digital mode. Only thing is, certain students are not able to assess because in their remote area, they don't get connected with the internet and other things. There's problems there. We have been discussing. Some of our course teachers are giving the problems. All those things they are doing it.
Yeah. So
If I can add something
yeah,
there,
please,
Dr.
please.
Agrawal,
Yeah.
as Dr. Kelly said and Dr. Kumar mentioned, we are also very conscious about mental health well-being of our students in the current situation. And not every student is comfortable in talking about these issues, so difficulties they are facing. So we are taking kind of a personalized approach in order to encourage them to approach and access counseling services provided by the university, and also giving direct access to lecturers that they are comfortable in sharing their issues. So these things have been kind of prioritized in the current situation because we have got lots of international students with different cultural backgrounds. So we need to recognize that diversity and should have personalized approach to help them.
Thank you, Dr. Delupa. So, friends, we have a couple of more questions. If I just see, there are questions related to the hardware. There are some questions related to some software. That which hardware or which software is good for recording the theory classes and other things. So I think there is no single answer for that. We cannot compare, and we cannot just tell that this situation is or this software is best in the given situation. So that all depends upon many factors. So somewhere X software may be better, in some places the Y software may be better. So we cannot compare the different softwares or different tools in this panel discussion. So with that, I think we have come to the conclusion. We had very good questions and very good responses have been given by all the panelists, a very experienced panelists we had today. So this is just for the knowledge of my all panelists especially from outside country. This is the first panel discussion which we have organized on this agriculture education during this pandemic period. And we will have a series of such programs by calling many experts, and we'll seek some other opportunity where we can again invite you to share your ideas or to talk on some other specialized topics. So thank you all very much for this. And once again, from the bottom of my heart, I feel privileged and thanking all my viewers, all the panelists for attending this program and making it a very useful, and I'm sure that it will help our Indian Council of Agriculture Research. It will help our Indian universities to have a new thinking and to have some new measures which can be taken up to take some steps so that the students' academic programs is not affected, and we can move to a new mode of teaching where we can have, as it has been told by Kelly, we can have a hybrid mode. It has been told by Dr. Delupa, by other panelists. Dr. Kumar has shared his experiences. Dr. Edward has given a lot of ideas about the best practices. So I think my all viewers, my all audience would have been greatly benefited. And with that, I thank you all for attending this webinar. Thank you all once again. Thank you.
Thank you.